Hello there, and welcome to, I think, the last of my batch of movie reviews I need to catch up on, and this one's for James Bond's Skyfall. I saw this here in New Hampshire, and I was impressed. Skyfall is the latest in the James Bond series of films. Previously, up until this, I actually watched all the films in sequential order, bought them all on iTunes for $5, and watched them. Skyfall is a very different film, I'd say. It breaks apart, it breaks clean, I think, of the Casino Royale and Quantum Solace storyline. And this movie really does take its own life. It is its own kind of thing. It feels like a standalone film that is kind of a bridge movie into the real James Bond world. So this movie, I feel, is what is really the beginning of James Bond. You get the introduction of Q, you get the introduction of Moneypenny, and you get all these things that, if you've watched the older films, are big payoffs to you, the fan. And this film really, I think, is the first. I'd say this ends the trilogy of leading up to James Bond in the making, and the next film will be the first true James Bond film, if you know what I mean. The first one that can be more of the formulaic things that we know to expect. So I'd say this trilogy we've had Casino Royale, Quantum Solace, and now Skyfall. I said this is the trilogy, the prequel trilogy, and now we're actually able to break free of that and go forward. And it's going to be an interesting to see where they take this. So the thing I loved about Skyfall is it concentrated on the characters. It was all character driven. It was less about the evil maniacal person and more about M and James Bond and the different characters that are all involved. There were great spectacular stunts, great blow-ups and other things like that. There were really, really nice homages to old James Bond movies, homages to, even things like Goldfinger, I believe, and there were things, Q made reference to blow-up pens, and it was lots of great homages for those that are into the James Bond world, but if you're not into those old movies, they just aren't a big thing to you. So Skyfall, I feel, is a perfect movie for new James Bond people. I think it's got a lot of the elements of it. You don't need to know a lot of the backstory about James Bond going into this film. This really could have been the first James Bond film. We could have actually started the series here instead of Casino Royale and Quantum Solace. It could have actually started here. That could have been what they did. But they decided to give us the full story of how, of when he actually became an agent with Casino Royale and the stories to follow after that. So, the interesting thing for me, though, with this one was one of my favorite films, James Bond films, is You Only Live Twice. That's got to be my favorite James Bond film. And it mimicked a lot of that kind of stuff with coming back to life, having two lives. And one thing that just kind of shocked me was James Bond was referenced in this film as being old, as he should retire because of his age. And this is his third film, and still a fairly young guy, I'd say. It seemed odd that they made so many references to that. And it was like never say never again as far as that in regards to his age. And I'm curious why that really was a thing, as I know they want to make many more films after this. What's the future of Bond after this? But anyways, enough of that sidetrack. A great film. Definitely worth seeing on the big screen. A great film. So, for a James Bond film, and even for a regular film. So, anyways, go out and see Skyfall. Highly recommended. It had very good pacing throughout and good music as well. So, it was a classic James Bond film and James Bond at its finest. Thanks for watching.